What's up, Jet fans? So, after the Aaron Rodgers injuries, if you actually look at the New York Jets depth chart, they only have one quarterback, which obviously they have to get at least a backup, or some people are even saying a starter. And so, there's so many articles and stuff about this. So, I thought it would be interesting to kind of go through the quarterbacks people are saying and how realistic and how likely and what I kind of think about them. So, to get us started, we're going to start with the absurd quarterbacks, I think. And so, first off, is I have no idea why this is in any article, but it's Tom Brady. And I think that any Jet fan would actually stop rooting for the Jets if Tom Brady became their quarterback. It's so unrealistic, but if it were to happen, I don't know. I just don't know. He's been retired for a year now, um, and I just think him coming back and playing for the New York Jets, people who are writing these articles and people who are saying it's going to be Tom Brady clearly are not Jet fans, because Jet fans would hate that, and I think the Jet ownership knows that. Um, and so I just think this is very unrealistic, and also I would hate it if it were to happen. Next, once again, another absurd one is Andrew Luck. I was a fan of Andrew Luck, and I understand why he retired the offensive line, which also, let's be honest here, is also a problem with the Jets. So it's not like that problem was solved, but the Jets are a highly talented team. But once again, it's kind of absurd. He hasn't played in multiple years, and so just a little absurd. Kind of the same issue with, once again, Colin Kaepernick. He's not as old as Tom Brady, but I don't think I think he's older than Andrew Luck, and he also hasn't played longer than Andrew Luck hasn't played. So once again, kind of absurd thing. But I'm not coming up with these quarterbacks. These are articles I'm seeing, and I think all three of these are kind of absurd, um, and not really realistic options. And if they were to come out of retirement, they'd have to come back as starters, which I don't even think Zach Wilson. He's not bad enough to be benched yet, and the team is kind of saying that as well. So once again, we're gonna go to other other free agent options that are, I think, less absurd. So first off, Matt Ryan. He hasn't officially retired. He's right now an analyst, I believe, and I don't hate him as an option. But the thing is, his age. He's kind of older. He really wasn't that good for the Colts, and he's really not mobile enough. So if you have this offensive line, which is really terrible as a passing when they block for passes, he's going to get killed out there. And so once again, I do think that's one thing that Zach Wilson is good at, and it gets him in trouble sometimes. But with this team with no offensive line, he really is not that bad. Um, Relative to this team, because you need a mobile quarterback if you have this offensive line, which is not working together. Kind of same problems, but someone who I like a lot more is Nick Foles. This Eagles Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's also been out of the league not for too long, but and he also has connections with Joe Douglas, which makes him slightly more realistic. He's also very comfortable being a backup, as we've seen. Um, so he makes a lot of sense if you're going to put him in the backup position, because once again, you do need to sign someone. And he has connections with Joe Douglas, who was in the Eagles front office when they won the Super Bowl. And then kind of same connection is Carson Wentz. He has the connection with Joe Douglas. He's also more mobile, but is the question is, would he be willing to come and be a backup? Because I think that his talent level is not better enough. It's not way better than Zach Wilson to make sense to put in a whole new quarterback and change the entire offense. He is mobile, like I was saying, but I just what's he also he's not really as comfortable as Nick Foles to be a backup. I don't think he's looking, and I think that's why he's out of the league right now, because he's looking to be a starter. And I don't think that he would be a good starter for the Jets this late into well, there is no more preseason, I guess. And then another free agent is Joe Flacco, someone who Jet fans are very familiar with. He is, I think, kind of more comfortable being a backup. He was a backup with the Jets, and he wouldn't be a complete regime change, as he's at least slightly familiar with this team. And I actually don't hate him as a backup, but once again, he is much older, um, and he's also not as mobile. So then everyone who I talked about have been free agents. So now I'm going to talk about some trade options. The one weird thing about trade options is if you are trading for a quarterback, I think you have to be trading for someone who's going to be a starter, which, the Jets are 1-0. Zach Wilson won his first game. So I don't think Zach Wilson would have to be playing bad for the Jets to trade for a quarterback, which I just don't think he is right now. But let's say he does, or something happens and they trade. Another option I've been seeing a lot is Jameis Winston. He's I mean, so he's very talented, but he also makes lots of mistakes. And so he's been a backup for a few years now. And so maybe are those mistakes being corrected, like as he took a backup role, which is kind of what you wanted with Zach Wilson. I don't really know. But once again, if you're trading for him, he's going to be the starter probably because you're not going to give up assets for a 1 year backup. That doesn't make any sense. So if you are trading for him, is he worth the starting role? I don't think he's better enough than Zach Wilson, and I think he actually makes more mistakes than Zach Wilson. Another one is Gardner Minshew, who's everyone's favorite backup, lovable backup quarterback. But the question is, once again, if you're trading for him, is he going to be better than Zach Wilson? I think he has more potential, more ceiling, but hopefully Aaron Rodgers comes back next year and he's the starter next year. So you're once again trading for someone who has a higher ceiling, but is he really worth giving away assets just for 1 year? And is he worth giving away assets for 1 year as a backup? Because I think his ceiling is high, but right now is he better than Zach Wilson? I don't think so. And then another one, Tyler Huntley, who is a Pro Bowl quarterback actually last year. He was the backup for the Ravens, but he actually made the Pro Bowl last year. But once again, is he better than Zach Wilson? I don't think so. And then his skill set, it's very similar to Lamar Jackson. There's a reason he's Lamar Jackson's backup and he's not on any other team. It's because he's very similar to Lamar Jackson. And the way that offense works is you have to change the entire offense. So I think the most realistic options are Tim Boyle, who's on the Jets, and these, sorry about this, these are not fun names, but it's Tim Boyle, who's on the Jets practice squad, he was on the preseason game, or, I think super realistically, someone who we've probably never heard of, or at least I realistically can't say I have heard of. And so I'm going to be honest with you guys, right? So all these names, other than Tim Boyle, are like high value names, right? And like they're kind of fun to speculate about, but I think most realistically, it's going to be some sort of backup because I think it is going to be a backup, not a starter. So it's going to be some sort of backup who we've never heard of. So I think all of this. So in conclusion, I think all these lists and stuff that you're reading are online are kind of a waste of your time, and almost the rest of this entire video is a little bit of a waste of your time, except for this conclusion, which I think not enough people are saying, and it's going to be someone random, someone who's not a headline name, and just someone who's can be a backup, right? I don't think the Jets are looking for a starter. Anyways, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I bet you by the time I post this video, they're going to sign some random person like Tim Boyle or some random other person who we've never heard of to add that backup quarterback.